was the night before TRANSMISSMAS, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap, when out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the lustre of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but the merciful end of a terrible year. Goodbye and good riddance, 2020. Nevertheless, Merry TRANSMISSMAS, gentle listener. It's time to sign off on another year of transmissions. Thank you for listening to us in the year that was. We will be returning in 2021, and do so hope that you will again choose to lend us your ears, such that we might once again pour our leprous distilment of horrific prose into those porches. We have a number of exciting things in development that we just can't wait to share with you in the new year. Not least of all, the triumphant return of a voice from darkness with the inimitable Dr. Malcolm Ryder. Stay tuned and we'll keep you posted as developments arise. Now, before we move on to our festive offering, we would like to welcome our final batch of Patreon subscribers for 2020. These are the wonderful listeners who choose to support our humble production through the Patreon subscriber platform, where, in return for their quite affordable payments, they receive assorted benefits and enticements, including exclusive Nocturnal Transmissions episodes. Every third episode, as a matter of fact. You would have seen the latest teaser for one of these only a couple of days ago. If you like what we do, please become a part of it. Just visit patreon.com and search for Nocturnal Transmissions. You can subscribe at Minion, Acolyte, or Cohort level. Speaking of which, our newest acolytes are Stephanie Leahy, Ian Truman Mason, Roger, Sarah Engstrom, and Z. Welcome, one and all. A big welcome also goes out to our new cohorts, that most esteemed of ranks, Stephanie Saloka and Shell. Stephanie recently upgraded her subscription from beloved acolyte to esteemed cohort. Bless your black little heart, Stephanie. You too, Shell. Welcome aboard. And now, it's time for our final presentation for 2020. Nocturnal Transmissions is proud to present KRAMPUS by Jeff Speziale. Each year on December 5th, people in my hometown are brutally murdered. The police are at a loss. Everyone in my town lives in fear, and some refuse to leave their homes. With each victim, a poetic story is left behind. These are those stories from the last 3 years. Frederick loved to smile, for he was always glad, happy, warm, and gentle, never ever sad. But Frederick had a secret, one he only knew. This man loved to strangle children. He turned them cold and blue. The townsfolk never found them, for he was very smart. Frederick took their corpses and pulled them all apart. It couldn't be young Frederick, everyone would say. He is a man of God. We always see him pray. The cold night came, and Frederick rested his head, but soon he heard a scratching underneath his bed. Frederick trembled as he looked, oil lamp in hand. On his bedroom floor, the demon had a plan. "Away with you, beast! The night is dark and long. You have no business here, for I have done no wrong." Krampus only laughed as he shook his rusty chain. He hung Frederick by the neck until he writhed in pain. The links constricted, digging into skin. Frederick then cried out, paying for his sin. He begged and pleaded until his final breath. With a beautiful snap, Frederick met his death. Krampus hung him out to dry, and all the townsfolk began to cry, but not the children, for now their souls were free, and under Frederick's body the phantoms danced with glee. Greta loved herself more than she could bear. She never had enough and could never, ever share. Want was never more, it was only need. Her envy grew and grew, and with it came her greed. Greta needed more, but money wasn't flush, so she stole from her family. It gave her quite the rush. It is not enough, to herself she would say. I must have it all, there is no other way. Into her grandparents' home Greta crept inside. They had many treasures, jewelry and gemstones pied. But when she looked about, wealth she did not find. Only ancient Krampus with something on his mind. Greta shrieked and trembled, staring at his claws. She knew there would be no mercy from this evil Santa Claus. "You shall have the riches," Krampus said with a grin, and he gave them to her after peeling off her skin. Herman was a doctor, for that's what he would say, and every single patient they would have to pay. He cut and pulled and burned, and after he was done, for more he always yearned. This surgeon was a butcher who had a taste for swine. With their bleeding flesh he'd pair a fine red wine. The hunger took him, body, mind, and soul, yet this evil, it never took its toll. Herman was alone, in his chair he sat. All this human meat had made him very fat. He drifted off to slumber and began to snore, until an angry Krampus burst through his door. Herman could not move, he wet himself in fright. Krampus licked his lips and let out a squeal of delight. First he gouged his eyes, and Herman could not see. Then Krampus filleted his tongue. It was tender as could be. Wilhelm was a grocer with all the town's supplies, but he was very greedy and made his prices rise. The poor could not afford it, and some began to starve, but Wilhelm only scoffed at them, with plenty of meat to carve. He always made them beg for just the smallest bits of food. Their suffering made him laugh and brightened up his mood. Wilhelm sat alone, counting money by the fire, when he heard the footsteps, quite loud and very dire. When Krampus stood before him and shook his rusty chain, Wilhelm begged and pleaded, praying for no pain. Krampus stripped him naked and hung him from a spire. The town then rejoiced, and they danced around his pyre. Summer was cold-hearted, despite her lovely name, a witch in nurse's clothing, treating the sick and lame. But for her patients she had no love, and prayed they all stayed ill, for when they slipped away she smiled and tarried another kill. She wept with their families, pretending to be sad. Yet when she went home at night, she danced like she was mad. As Summer bathed and closed her eyes, she began to dream, and Krampus crept into her room through a cloud of steam. The nurse did thrash as Krampus drowned her slow, and now her corpse is turning blue as the demon tossed her in the snow. Johann had a secret, and he'd take it to the grave. This man loved his neighbor's daughter, and wished to keep her as a slave. She was but only 12, not yet halfway to his age. But Johann did not falter as he built the child's cage. The night had come, it was time to claim his prize. He snuck into her bedroom, a glimmer in his eyes. But in the child's chamber, a young girl he did not take, for lurking in the shadows was Krampus, hissing like a snake. When Johann cried, the Christmas demon let out a laugh as he grabbed the evil man by his legs and pulled him right in half. And now the child sleeps in peace, snuggled in her bed, for Johann's body, torn to bits, now keeps the maggots fed. Christmas is joyous, full of love and cheer, but you must remember the one that we all fear. So be kind to one another, show love and heed this text, or Krampus will find you, and you will certainly be next. These stories were discovered on what can only be described as parchment paper with inconclusive carbon dates. The police are seeking any information that may help bring the killer to justice. After speaking with the detective assigned to the case, it would appear we have no leads or suspects. The killings appear to be unexplainable, both in nature and method of execution. It has led many of us to believe that there is not only a supernatural element to the murders, but we have no doubt that they will continue each year. Merry Transmissmas, gentle listener. This episode was brought to you with the generous assistance of our Patreon subscribers. A particular thank you goes out to our esteemed cohorts: Evan Dooley, Michael Wood, Sam Bell, Alex Brewis, Chris McCauley, Alicia Townsend, Shell, Robert Troy Hampton Peterson, and Stephanie Saloka. Until next time, as always, watch the skies, fear the dark, and don't trust anyone. Especially yourself. See you in 2021, gentle